Uh, I'm normally a workout fiend. I just recently, within the past couple months, injured my shoulder pretty bad. I have a minor tear in the shoulder, and it's really been holding me back. But usually, when I'm at the peak of my workout regimen, I'm in the gym for about 2 hours a day, about an hour of cardio and about an hour of weights. Intervals for the cardio, low weight, high rep as far as the weights are concerned, more about toning. And it's weird that I'm answering that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's normally what I do. I try to keep pretty active. Yeah, it's again, like the shoulder has really been a big setback for me. Hopefully, I can deal with it. It'll be all right. I don't know that. See, each time that we set out to make a record, it's not like we look at the previous record and go, okay, where do we go from here? You know, we never really do that. It's never. It's always each record stands on its own for us. We don't try and make comparisons. We're not saying, well, hey, this is what we did on Indestructible. What should we do more of on this record, or less of on this record, or differently on this record? Really don't view it that way. The songs just come together very organically and naturally and are all about vibe and feel, and there isn't a method or a technique or a formula or a science to it. It's vibe and heart and soul, and we just really stick to our guts, and whatever ends up impressing us, we hope will end up impressing everyone. We had probably the biggest conflict we've ever had in terms of trying to decide which was going to actually be the single. And then after we figured out what the first single is, there's a huge conflict of what the following singles are going to be. There's any number of tracks on this record which have just huge, massive potential. Even trying to assemble the track listing, just trying to choose the ones that were making the record was intensely difficult. They're all just very powerful songs. And, from front to back, I mean, I know that we've always held true to the adage of Disturbed albums being all killer, no filler, but this one is no bullshit. I mean, it's a motherfucker from the beginning of it to the very end. And so when we finally got our mastered copies, our most recently mastered copies, and I'm listening to the record, and I hadn't listened to it for a while because I gave myself a little bit of a break, sometimes.
Yeah.
Just step away from it. And yeah, and you get back into your rooms where your comfort zone is audio wise, and you're trying to see, okay, what fits where, and you finally get to sit back and listen to the body of work again. And I was like, God damn. I was sitting back in my theater in my home and just, wow, I just blown away by what we've created. I'm very pleased with it, very happy with it. We all are, and I can only hope that the world shares the same level of excitement that we do. That, October Rust, and those are two really formative records for so many bands. And like I said, Typo Negative is some sexy music. I was always back in the day when we were single men. That was back lounge material. That and maybe the Deftones, from time to time. But they were great at what they did. I mean, they pushed the envelope in as far as the depth of the darkness of their creativity. Peter's low baritone voice, was such a trademark thing. And it's funny because I don't want to say it's funny, but prior to the unfortunate demise of Peter's death, as we were making this record, whenever I would try to do a low vocal, or an octave drop, I'd always be like in the studio, hey, where's Peter? We got to bring Peter in here because I don't know if I can hit it this low, That was always the running joke. Because who else could sing so purely and so cleanly at such a low range? He just had that innate ability. And I think we'll all miss them. No, no, we've never really been that sort of a band. With Disturbed, it's really always been much more about power. You know, the records are meant to be empowering, and that can be sexy, I would imagine. But I think that we take a different route thematically than, say, a band like Typo did. But definitely very, very much a huge fan of theirs, and it was just a very tremendous loss. Thematically, probably right, yeah. Well, the song in general is about global warming and the abuse and rape of our planet that we have perpetuated. Um, it's unforgivable. It has to come to a stop. The crisis in the Gulf is an unforgivable one, an inexcusable one, and something that we really need to start taking stock of the damage that we're doing to our planet in order to ensure that there is a planet for future generations. Why that song specifically? From a stylistic standpoint, it has all of the elements that we feel our fans want from an opening Disturbed single, from a stylistic standpoint. It also catches them off guard a little bit from the intro piece, which is a different approach for the intro of a song than we've ever tried, so it's going to surprise people a little bit. And the subject matter is provocative subject matter, which we always try to go for on the first single. I mean, last record was Inside the Fire, dealing with the subject of suicide. So we always try to go for that first one out of the gate for it to be something that's going to get people talking. The video I can't tell you that much about it because I don't know how far Robo is going to, the director is going to end up straying from the original or whatnot, but it obviously is going to depict global warming on a grand scale and show the catastrophic nature of it. I don't want to give too much away, but it's definitely going to do justice to the theme of the song.
Well, we went back to Chicago, where we always have recorded our records. Only difference this time is we went to Groove Master. It just happened to be a different Groove Master, different building. He just happened to move his studio. But we just go back to our comfort zone. It's kind of like our home, and that's where we learned from Johnny K. He was our producer for the first 3 records, and he taught us really well, and it was a great experience on the 4th record, and it was just time for us to do it again on the 5th.
Yeah, we've gotten very comfortable on our own, so we have no issues with it at this point. We're not saying that we're never going to work with a producer again. We hope that we never need to, but if the point in time comes where we find ourselves feeling frustrated creatively or we need some assistance, we'll ask for it, but haven't needed to for the time.
Yeah, after 14 years of playing together and being in this band together, we know each other so well, and we know what each other's capable and what we bring to the table. I personally think we're each other's biggest influences, and it's easier to fall back on each other for input and opinions in the studio than it is from an outside source.
We come in there very prepared. The songs, as far as their arrangement is concerned, are 95 to 98% complete by the time we walk through those studio doors. So the studio we don't utilize as a time for additional writing or additional development of material. We know what we have to do. We go in there, we track it, The only real experimentational stuff that ends up occurring is esoteric stuff that Danny does. The electronica, the layering of the guitars, and so on and so forth, and which he's so fantastic at. But we're in there. We go in groups of 4 or 5 songs at a time. We concentrate on those 4 or 5 songs with each respective block, get each of them as strong as they can possibly be, performance-wise, vibe-wise, and then move on to the next set. Very strategic, very disciplined. We're not there to play games and screw around. We're there to do what we need to do. We're there to make the strongest record we can make, and there's no point in wasting time. Not only is time money, granted, we don't want to waste any money, but we don't want to waste any time, period. It's not just about the cost. We're eager to come out and play these songs live. Finish the record, get the stuff out there so that we can get on stage and rip it up. Yeah, I think for all of us, as you get older, these guys have beautiful families, and I'm trying to start something that will hopefully be a beautiful family one day, and we all have beautiful homes, and time is more important. It becomes more precious, especially when there are more and more precious people in your life that you want to spend that time with. Uproar with Avenged, Stone Sour, Hell Yeah, Hailstorm, and a couple other bands that I keep on forgetting, and I really shouldn't. But they're baby bands, and I guess that's why. And I'm looking forward to knowing you guys. I really am. I'm sorry. I will. I'll come see you. But we're really looking forward to that run. We're assembling production that no one has ever seen on a Disturbed stage before. That's really going to blow people away. I mean, we have been having intensive production meetings with our staff and our crew, and really pushing the envelope creatively and setting the stage for what's going to be a really amazing performance. We're really looking forward to that. We'll do a headlining run of our own after that festival run, the Uproar Festival, and then we'll be coming to Europe between mid-November to mid-December. And the lineup is still unsettled, but I will tell you that I saw the submission list, and it looks pretty damn strong.
Very impressive.
Yeah, so whomever we end up choosing from the long list, which is significant, you guys are going to make out like bandits. I mean, it's going to be a powerful bill. Yes, we're trying to be efficient about it. We're trying to make sure that all of our materials can get into one truck so that we're not wasting fuel, so that we're not, over polluting the environment with, a 6 or 7 truck exhaustive type of situation. In addition to that, we're partnering up with our merch company to put out a recycled t-shirt line specifically in conjunction with Another Way to Die, that a portion of the proceeds from the sales of the shirt will go towards Greenpeace. We're really trying to take some definitive actions to show that we really mean what we're saying here, and try to walk the walk and not just talk the talk.
Yeah, the fans in Europe, for some reason, are just so much more passionate and just rabid and more appreciative when the bands, maybe from America, come over here. We're so excited every time we come here to tour. It's amazing, and they can definitely teach American audiences a thing or two for sure.
Asylum, the very word and the definition of it has a dual meaning. It has the meaning and the connotation of a mental institution or insane asylum, obviously, and it also has the meaning of when you grant someone asylum, when you give someone a haven or a safe place or give them a harbor. The song deals with the memory of a lost loved one driving you to the point of madness. And yet that memory is your haven and your safe place that you go to in times of need. So you're trapped by it, but in a certain way you do not want to free yourself from it. The Infection is a song that deals with depression and the debilitating effect it can have on the body and on the soul, and how it can eat away inside of you, and that you need to find a way to destroy it, kill it, so that you can continue to live. The Warrior is just a fight song inspired by mixed martial arts and UFC, and just an inspirational, empowering, and strengthening song for people everywhere who want to feel like a warrior. Another Way to Die deals with global warming that we've already discussed. Never Again, which deals with, it speaks about the Nazi Holocaust of World War II. Both of my grandparents on my mother's side were survivors of the camps. My grandfather was in Bergen-Belsen, and my grandmother was in Auschwitz. And both were survivors. My grandfather was on wheelbarrow duty. He used to cart the bodies to the crematorium. My grandmother was younger at the point in time. She was only about 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. And being a little girl, she was in line to the gas chamber on 3 separate occasions. And she survived because she was a little girl. They let her crawl under their legs to the back of the line each time she got in line, so she didn't make it inside. And after the 3rd time, the camp was liberated. And the song was written as a response to the people in this world, i.e., Ahmadinejad, who would be who's so fervent about denying that the Holocaust ever occurred. Visited with my grandmother, who was a survivor. She still has the tattoo on her arm of the number when she was in the camp, and still has the stories and the trauma that it's caused to her body, and realized that this is the last generation of survivors that we're about to lose. So I felt it was important to say something about it, and to also utilize that to extend to the notion of that, unfortunately, genocides have continued to occur since then, whether it's the Armenian genocide or the Bosnian Serbian ethnic cleansing, whether it's the situation that developed in Darfur, or what's been happening in Uganda, or what things that continue to happen on a global level. We haven't learned our lesson, and we should, and it should never be allowed to happen again. The Animal is more of a tongue-in-cheek song. It's inspired by the underworld films and the whole werewolf mythology. It comes from the perspective of being the creature, being the man that turns into the beast, and enjoying the power that comes with it and the fear that it invokes and inspires. Crucified is another post-relationship breakup type of thing, where after the relationship has come to an end, you feel as if you can't move on, that you are nailed to the cross and unable to move and unable to progress further in any relationship and move on with your life. Just again illustrating the debilitating aspect of the situation. Serpentine is speaking about a manipulative, devilish, demonic woman who utilizes her sexuality to prey on weak men. My Child is a very personal song. In a previous relationship, the girl I was seeing at the time had gotten pregnant by me. And there was this tremendous confusion of what to do at the time. I embraced it after a time, was ready to become a father. She was just she was just out of her first trimester, and we lost the child. And so that's what the song is speaking about, is losing that child and the miscarriage that occurred. Then there's Sacrifice, which is just talking about the two sides of our personalities that are in each of us. And, that within each of us is a Jekyll and a Hyde, that we all have our dark side, and that you should always tread carefully when approaching it. You can invoke the wrath of the darker side.
So it's also, also something like vampire stuff.
Not vampire. Just I think that there's a monster in each of us, and it doesn't have to be a vampire. We all have our moments. And then Innocence, which is the final track on the record, is a song that talks about corrupt attorneys and the criminals that they defend, knowing that they're guilty. And how do they live with themselves? There you have it.
So are they really corrupt?
Oh, I think so. I think so. They go ahead and pick, they choose to defend people that are going to raise their status. They don't care about guilt or innocence or anything else like that. It's all about, how can they sensationalize something? How can they utilize this person's pain to make their own goals succeed? And I think it's disgusting. It's a reprehensible sort of behavior. Impossible to say. Impossible to say. I'm sorry to be difficult about that, but it's just that these are children. Once again, I know I've said that many times, but even more so with this record, because as I described earlier, we had such a conflict, in terms of not only what was going to finally make the record, and also in terms of how we're going to end up, stratifying our singles. So it's it is what it is. It's our greatest work that we've ever put together, and I can't pick specifics. We all have a specific and special and unique love for each one of these songs, and any one of them could be a contender. So it's nearly impossible.